Welcome to this WiseOwl tutorial giving an overview of the PowerMap application within Excel. Here's what you'll learn during the tutorial. We'll begin by looking at creating the data model you'll need to create maps. Then we'll look at creating a map, editing it, making a map more specific to your country, looking at how to monitor confidence thresholds to see how well geographical data is being located. We'll look at how to play maps over time, which is as much fun as it sounds. And then we'll look at a couple of ideas for future use of PowerMaps. So let's get started. To create a Power Map, the first thing we need to do is to create a data model in Power Pivot. And to do that, I'm going to run you quickly through the steps now. The first thing you'll need to do is install the Make a MAML database from this blog, which is linked to from the YouTube page containing this tutorial. And that will tell you how to run the SQL Server script to generate the MAM Make a MAML database you need. What you can then do is go into Power Pivot in a new Excel workbook, go to Manage, and what we're now going to do is bring in the tables from our underlying database. You can choose from Database, choose SQL Server. My database is stored in a named instance called SQL 2012. Yours won't be, yours will be somewhere different. I can choose the MAM database and then go on to the next stage, and then next again to choose the tables I want to import. I'm going to start with the transaction table. From there I'll go to the POS table. You can obviously choose these in any order, and then I'll go up the geographical hierarchy to the store, the center containing it, the town it's in, and then finally the region. And finally I'll choose two more tables, the product table and the calendar table, in case I want to do any more aggregation. I'll give all of my tables better names, although that's debatable, by removing the TBL at the front of each. It's a bit of a tedious process, and the main reason I'm doing it, to be honest, is so to ensure compatibility with other tutorials in this series where I've done that too. So I've got rid of all my TBLs. I can now choose Finish to complete my data model. And then when I close that dialog box down, I can go to Diagram View and create the necessary relationship between the calendar and the POS table by dragging the POS date onto the calendar date. All of which means I'm good to go now back in Excel in creating my Power Map. What I want to do now is to show how to create a map in Power Map showing total sales by postcode. The first thing to do is go to Insert, and then what we're going to do is launch Power Map. It's the only application in the Power BI framework which isn't actually integrated within Excel, as you'll see shortly. The first thing it will ask me to do is to enable the add-in. That's because this is the first time I've done this, and that will automatically link to the add-in. I'll never need to do that again, and launch Power Map. As you can see, it takes a while to load and uses a fair amount of memory, so you need a pretty fast machine. The first question it's going to ask me, and what is essentially a wizard on the right hand side, is which geography field I'm going to choose. If you possibly can, you should have latitude and longitude for precision, but I haven't, so I'm going to have to be more imprecise, less precise, and instead choose a postcode field from the center table. It will then ask me what sort of field this is. I can click on this drop arrow and say, well, actually it's a zip code, but I don't really need to do that because it guessed correctly. Before I go on, what I'm going to do is to set a filter, because at the moment all the blue squares are obscuring each other. So what I'm going to do is go to this filter tool and add a filter. What I'm going to do is say that the number of units, if I add that in, has to be at least about 200. So I'll drag that in, and that is exactly 200. I can then go back to where I was, and having chosen my geography field and got a smaller manageable amount of data being displayed, I can click on the next button to go on and choose how big each of these blue squares will be, and also what I'm grouping by. Let's do the categorization first. What I'm going to do is show the total sales by product. So in the product table, I'm going to take the product name and drag it into the category. And then to say how big each of the bars will be, I'll go down to the transaction table and drag the quantity down and have that as my height. And what you can see is each of the bars shows the distribution of sales across the different products. I can have various different charts. I can have a stacked column. I can have a cluster column. These get progressively more exciting, by the way. That looks quite colourful. I can have a bubble chart, wait for it, and the flowers spread over the map. I can have a heat map, and I can also have something called a region chart, and this being an overview tutorial, I've never actually got that to work, I must admit. So that's creating a basic map. What we'll now do is look at how to edit one. What I want to do now is to look briefly at how you can save, close and edit maps. What you'll notice in the map we've created is it has one tour. It's possible to have a number of different tours and combine them together into a video which you can then play back to people, a bit like your holiday snaps. We're going to keep with a single tour, so what I'm going to do is close down this application by choosing File, Close. I could also click on this cross at the top right, just above where it says to send a smile to Microsoft. So I'll choose File, Close. I'm back in my Excel workbook. What I'm going to do is save my changes. I'd already previously saved this, so it's just a question of clicking the floppy disk icon. And what I can now do is go back into PowerMap. To do that, I can go to the Insert tab and choose to launch PowerMap. I think it's quite confusing. I'm not inserting anything, I'm editing something, but there you are. It gives me a list of the tours I've created. I can either edit one of these or I can add a new tour into my map. I'm going to go for editing the existing one, so I can just click on this picture and I'm back where I started from. We've just shown total sales by UK postcode. What I want to do is to change this to show total sales by town. To do this, I can go back into my geography choice by clicking this little icon, and I can change my field. So what I'm going to do is go down to the town table and choose the town name. Before I do that, let's just get rid of the postcode. Oddly, I scroll all the way down the list of possibilities for the postcode and choose Remove, which is just underneath the list. So instead of that, I'll choose Town Name, and what it will do is map the towns. I need to confirm what sort of a thing this is. I reckon it's denoting which city or town I'm in, so it's actually guessed correctly again. Again, it would have been better to use the latitude and longitude coordinates, but I'll choose city, and you can see I have a problem. Two of the towns appear to be on the east coast of the United States, despite the fact I'm pretty confident they're in the UK. To get around this, what I need to do is be more specific about where my towns are. So I'm going to come out of PowerMap altogether, go into my PowerPivot data model and repeat what I previously did in a separate tutorial on PowerView maps. So what I'm going to do is go to the town table and I'm going to create a new calculated column beginning with an equal sign, click on the town name, and what I'm going to do is concatenate after that the word UK. And I'm hoping what that will do is persuade PowerMap that these towns are actually part of the UK. I'll rename my new field to UK Town, and then I'll go back into Excel. What I'll then do is go back into PowerMap, go back into editing my tour, and in my geography field I'm going to get rid of the town name by choosing Remove, go down to my town table, and in it I should find my new field, but I don't because I actually need to refresh my data. So it doesn't automatically come up with a tick box saying you've made changes to your underlying data model. So instead I need to click on this Refresh Data button. It will bring in my new field, and now I can drag that UK Town and make it my geography field. It has no idea what a UK town is, so I need to click on the drop arrow and say, well, it actually corresponds to a city, and then it will create my map successfully. So it's a bit of a rigmarole to persuade PowerMap that you're actually based in the country you think you're based in. We're now going to have a brief look at mapping confidence. How confident is PowerMap that it's displaying points on the correct place? I'll just choose Next to go out of the geography step of the wizard, if you like. Next to the geography field is a percentage symbol showing how confident Microsoft are that they've got things right. And if you click on that percent symbol, you can see 79% is not that confident, and it presents some of the things it struggled with. I always wonder why on earth it struggles with things like Liverpool in the UK. How many Liverpools are there? But there you are. So that didn't work very well, so what I'm going to do is choose OK, and I'm going to improve things by going back to the geography column by clicking this symbol. And instead of choosing the UK town, which wasn't a great success, so I'll just get rid of that by choosing Remove, what I'm going to do instead is go back to using the postcode, and it's made it a zip code. Click on Next, and I'm up to 87%. And if I click on that, you can see that it didn't like DA99BZ. I'm not quite sure why, but it's a bit of an improvement. But once again, the best thing you can do is get a latitude and a longitude field so there's no ambiguity whatsoever. We'll now create a tour and play it over time, and this is about the most fun you can have in computer software. Let's first change the chart type back to a stacked column and make sure that the category is going to be the product name. just to make it look more exciting. What you can then do is choose the field which is going to be your time field. So what I'm going to do is go out to the calendar and choose my date, drag that down into my time, and you get an inkling of what's about to happen. You can create 3 different types of time graphs, time animations. You can get data to show up for an instant, we'll do that in a second, that's the most exciting thing. Or you can get it to accumulate over time, in which case the bars will gradually grow. Or you can get data to stay until a second bit of data replaces it. So let's have a go at displaying what we've got so far by clicking on this little play button. And there you see the bars gradually accumulating over time, and you can see the date gradually accumulating. That's quite fun. I stop that. Possibly more fun if you make it into a scatter and bubble chart and play that, in which case you get the flowers gradually appearing. There's a lot of software programming gone into this. Or you could create a heat map and display that, in which case when you run it, the heat maps gradually build up, and that's actually probably showing something meaningful. For any of these charts, you can display them by playing a tour, in which case you go full screen and it looks even better. When you finish doing that, you can press the escape key to go back. But I promised we'd have a look at running an animation where the data only shows for an instant, and the best thing you can do is show a scatter and bubble chart. Are you ready for this? So when we play that, you'll show the bars appearing. It would have been a lot more exciting, but for some reason it keeps losing the category. So what we're going to do is add the category back in. I think it's whenever you switch to a heat map, it loses a category and then doesn't replace it when you go back to a stacked bar chart. So let's go back out to the product, drag the product in and make that a category again, and we'll have another go at doing the same thing. Ready again? Play that. How beautiful is that? That's probably a rhetorical question. If I then pause that, what you can also do is create a video out of this to play back to your friends by clicking the create button. You can set a soundtrack, so you can have perhaps some music, Adele playing in the background or something like that. I'll cancel out of that because I haven't got anything prepared. And I'll save it for playing back on my computer, tablet or notebook. And when I choose create, I can choose where I'm going to put it. I'll call it my tour. I can choose save, and what will happen is it will create the video. And in the final part of this tutorial, I'll show you what the video we created looked like. Alternatively, we could actually wait, because when it says it took us a few minutes, it seems to be compiling very quickly. So it's finished out. I can now open it, and here's my video. So now I could presumably send this to somebody and they could play it on their machines, and you could then explain to them exactly what's happening with your data. The title of this tutorial was just an overview of PowerMap. So unlike virtually all of the other tutorials in this series, I don't claim to be an expert on the subject. But here's a couple of ideas you can do. You can create layers, each of which can have opacity. So I presume you can have one transparent layer partially showing through another. And another idea is you can create new scenes based on either a world map or custom maps that you've created. When you choose to create a custom map, you'll need to fill in this dialog box. And to give you some idea of what's possible, here's a couple of examples from the MSDN website. In this one is showing a heat map of where different shoppers have been in a store. And in this one, it's showing different players on a netball or basketball pitch and where they've been. If you like what you've seen and heard so far, why not head over to the WiseOwl website, where you can find loads more free resources, including these videos, some written blogs and tutorials, and even some exercises that you can download to practice your skills. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.